Contrology, Pilates, the method, the work. However you want to describe it, it is the brainchild of German creator and inventor, Joe Pilates. Hello, everyone. I'm Darian Gold. Thanks for joining us on All Things Pilates. On today's episode, we have with us Judith Green. And Judith has quite a story for us, beginning with how she met and became a student of Naja Cori, a disciple of Joe Pilates. And unless you're a Facebook follower of Jonathan Grubb, the Pilates historian, you may not have heard of Naja Cori, and neither had Judith. So let's get right to her story. Welcome to the show, Judith.
Thank you, Darian. Thanks so much for having me.
You are very welcome. Right off the top, Judith, why do you think that Naja Cori isn't as well known as many of Joe's other students who are referred to as the Pilates elders?
I reflected on this question earlier, and in Jonathan's post, one of her students mentioned that she ran into Naja in the 90s in the streets of New York City and asked her how excited she was about the explosion of Pilates. Naja was a very private, quiet type of person, and she told that student, "I don't like it. I'm not part of it." And I think that's why we know less about her. That's the only real explanation I can give to that question of why that was the case.
What year are we talking about?
Somewhere in the 90s, I think 97, if I'm correct in what Jonathan put in his blog.
How did you learn about Naja in the first place?
That goes back to the mid-70s. I had just graduated college with a degree in physical education. And earlier I told you my story about heading to Florida right after I graduated. It's in December in a blizzard with a sailboat on top of our car. And we ended up in Florida, and I called home just to check in because this is the days before cell phones, and my parents did want to hear from me. And my father said he had gotten a phone call from Michael with the G. Fox Beauty Salon in Hartford, and would I be interested in interviewing to go be a student of this Pilates teacher in New York City? And I said, okay, and we jumped in the car and drove back with the sailboat on top of the car. And I quickly got dressed because it was that evening that I was meeting Michael in a restaurant.
Michael, who is Michael?
You know what? For the life of me, I have not been able to come up with his last name, but he was the manager of the beauty salon on the 10th floor of the G. Fox building in downtown Hartford, the famed G. Fox building that was just a centerpiece for shopping and all things iconic in Hartford. And Seligman and Lots of Fifth Avenue in New York City owned many of these beauty salons, and Michael was the manager. And they had decided, it was Joan Breitbart, who was the marketing genius with Seligman and Lots. They asked her who would be a good, or what would be a good exercise program to bring into our beauty salon. And she was a student of Naja's. Fast forward, I'm finding myself interviewing with Michael in the restaurant off of I-84 in Waterbury. And he said to my father, "How will I know it's your daughter?" And my father told him, "She'll be the most beautiful girl that walks in the room." And Michael said I was hired before he even met me. Because if my dad thought that about me, wow, isn't that great? So we jumped in his car, I'm going to say like within a couple of days, and went into New York City. And that's where I met Naja for the first time.
But you had already heard of Joe Pilates' work?
I had, being a disciple myself of all things physical fitness, and my dad running a YMCA and understanding all the different forms of exercise and Jack LaLanne. I had heard of Pilates. I knew it started during the war, that he had taught to injured soldiers, and that's where the whole bed frame and exercise equipment theory and philosophy came from. So I knew a little bit of it, but I really didn't understand. And Naja's program was called Body Economics. So I wasn't even told it was Pilates. And, we're going back to 1977 and it's, 2021. So I'm going back in my memory banks here, and Body Economics didn't ring a bell. But later on, when I realized it was Pilates, I said, oh, Joe Pilates, that did resonate.
You get to New York City with is it Michael?
Yeah.
And is Naja there to greet you? How does that play out?
Yes, she was. We went to her studio, which was right off of Fifth Avenue, and took the elevator up, which was just fascinating to me. It was this little elevator, and when it got to her floor, it opened up immediately into her studio. And I had never seen anything like that, because usually all the elevators I had been into opens up into a lobby or something. And there was her studio with 6 exercise mats lined up on the right-hand side, each with its own individual mirror. And then you would walk in between, and on the left was the caged apparatus that later on I watched Joan Breitbart go through the moves on that and thought, oh my God, this is some kind of torture chamber. I don't know what it was called. And then to the left was...
Wait. So there was just this caged piece of equipment, just one?
Yeah, just one.
And how big was it?
It was like a baby's crib, but with the top all enclosed, and it was all, or really like a not as big as a lion's cage, but similar to that, where you would get into this contraption, and it had all the pulleys and things hanging down.
But not the Cadillac.
And then,
not the Cadillac.
You know what? I'm not sure. And then when I saw Joan go through her moves in that, I was just amazed. She would come a couple times a week, and the physical specimen that she was directly related to this. So no wonder she wanted Naja and her Body Economics program to go into these studios, because it was brilliant. I mean, it was a great idea. It's just, unfortunately, was a little before its time, and I don't think people were ready for it. And then on the left-hand side, Darian, as you asked me what the studio looked like, there was the Pilates beds. At that point, I'm not sure what she called them. They weren't reformers, and they really were quite large and more like beds with the pulleys and the all kinds of apparatus on those as well.
Maybe the bednasium. I wonder if it was the bednasium.
Oh, could have been.
That's interesting.
And then beyond that, I didn't remember this, but this may have been her apartment, and her studio was in the front part. And then she had a kitchen behind that to the left, a bathroom to the right, which people could use with a shower and a tub. And then beyond that was a sitting room. But now I'm realizing it might actually have been her living room.
That sounds very New York.
It was very New York. It was fabulous.
So you walk in, Naja's there. Is she teaching, or are you going to step into a class that is about to happen?
I'm stepping into the interview.
Okay.
So she's going to interview me and proceeds to have me get on a mat and puts me through the paces. And if you ever took a class with Naja Cori, I think I used the words drill sergeant. And that was very reminiscent, I think, of the way that Joe Pilates taught. Very strict, moving from one exercise to the other, and really focusing in on where your body is placed in space, your center core, your breathing. And I think we did 30 minutes, and I was in great shape. I'm an athlete. I just graduated physical education, went sailing down in Florida during a snowstorm. I bike, I hike, I play tennis, you name it. And it was a whole different experience.
Were you shaking?
Yeah, I was shaking, and I hurt my back specifically through all the pelvic tilts and really holding those positions. That isotonic, isometric contraction type of moving through space exercise was very foreign to me.
You came back, obviously, for more torture.
I did. So I was hired. We went to meet Joan Breitbart on Fifth Avenue, and we went up to the 666 Fifth Avenue, and I ended up getting hired and then went into New York for a month to study with Naja.
And at what point do you get the connection or make the connection that Joe Pilates taught Naja, and then Naja took his exercises and probably did her own method as well? At what point in that month did you learn that, oh, I'm doing the Pilates method, but through the eyes of Naja?
Yeah, and Naja was a very private person, exotic, otherworldly, and didn't tell me a whole lot about her life, but pieces of it came out throughout the month. And if I remember correctly, I started making the connection, and she told me about Joe and that she was one of his students. And then someone else later on told me she was a disciple and she was Joe's favorite student. I think that was Joan Breitbart. And Joan was the one who took me out to dinner and entertained me, and I think filled me in more on Naja than Naja actually did. When I was at Naja's studio, it was all business. We went from, I was walking the streets of New York City in the dark from the Barbizon Hotel for Women across the city, walking with everyone feverishly getting to work. And it's in the 70s, so it's a whole lot different than what we know of New York City today, with a lot of homeless people sleeping on grates. And it's January, it's freezing cold. And I would arrive at her studio, take the elevator up, and from the minute I got in that door, boom, we went right into it. Whether she was training me, students were coming in, and eventually she let me teach those classes, which was quite an honor that I moved into that role as I moved slowly through her month-long training with me, and got to see her training other advanced students, including Joan, in the caged contraption, whatever that was. So it was quite fascinating, but I didn't learn a whole lot about Naja. I did know about her with the Snake Act, and she was on Mike Douglas and had done some commercials, and remembered after that realizing one of her commercials was coming out, and there she was with just a leotard on with the snake around her neck doing this advertisement. And I thought, oh my gosh, that explains everything about her. When I use the word exotic, that's exactly what I thought of her even before I knew about the Snake Act.
You saw her on television?
I did.
Did she come from a dance background specifically, or more of just an entertainer, and she used exotic creatures, whether it be a snake or animal or prop?
She was a dancer.
So she was a dancer as well.
She was. And you could tell by the way she held herself, the way that she moved. She was quite fascinating. And when she went to train with Joe, he just took her to the next level of awareness of where she was in space and how she held herself. And then working through the different routines and the apparatus that she had, I think gave her an even more impressive stature, that whole posture thing, breathing, your shoulder girdle back and down, being aware of where your feet are and moving upwards from the base of support. All that was a constant, just autopilot, if you will. Yeah. And she did that for me, where it became second nature. I didn't have to think about where I was holding my body, how I was moving, breathing, it became an automatic type of thing for me.
Did she walk around and place her hands on different students, different parts of their bodies? Or did she stand away and just give verbal cues?
Oh, she was all of the above. She was hands-on. She was only 6 students to a class. So you got a lot of individual attention. And then when you went into her one-on-ones, it was even more intense. We had the yardstick ruler where you would sit and we would put it at the base of your spine and then roll your spine up vertebrae by vertebrae until you were locked into that position. And then you would move through your exercises and hold that vertebrae placement. And she would very often move the shoulder girdle and put that into the proper placement, or your feet so that they were properly placed, ankles together, toes pointed. Everything was hands-on, and also an excellent, superb teacher with her instructions, where I learned from her that I could put somebody through a whole workout and tell them exactly where to place each body part for optimal results.
You emulated her style of teaching then.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she was it.
And you did not hear about Carola or Romana or Kathy. Those names weren't floating around while you were working with Naja for that month?
You know, they may have, but I don't remember hearing about them. And coming back after that month with her, we opened up the studio on the 10th floor in the beauty salon in the corner of this huge G-Fox department store downtown Hartford. It was exercise just to find us and then get into the studio. And we were off the beaten track, if you will.
But you were ready, right?
Well, I was ready physically, absolutely. And we had the big grand opening, and Joan had done some marketing for it. And we had the studio filled up, but I filled it up with family, friends, and then, of course, there was all the hairdressers, and a few of the men came in as well. And Naja was there for a few days, and we did the opening exercise routines, put people through the paces, and she was very generous in letting me really partake and being a big part of the leadership of that piece of the program. And then stepped away and went back to New York City. And I was kind of left on my own to not only teach the classes, which by then, having been Naja's student, I was perfectly trained, but I also was charged with marketing and bringing in people and getting people into the classes, which was the struggle of filling up the classes and getting that all to happen.
Did you market the classes as body economics or the Pilates method?
Body economics. I believe Joe did not want anybody to use his name. I do remember that. And I don't know if there was a little bit of a falling out between Naja and Joe. I have a sense that there was maybe a disconnect and that she ended up calling it body economics. I don't know how Joan Breitbart in the 90s, because I looked up Joan as you and I were preparing for this. And Joan started the whole Pilates certification program.
On the West Coast.
Yeah, and knew back in the 70s that this was the way to go. But I get back to Hartford and people are coming into these classes saying, where's the aerobics? We didn't even say cardio back then. Where's the aerobics? I need to sweat. I'm not sweating. This is weird. And Hartford just wasn't ready for Pilates. And then for the explosion in the 90s, I had friends calling me up saying, oh my God, this is your exercise program.
Is it?
Yeah. And I mean, I've done it religiously since then. So that's how many decades? Almost 5 decades. And I do Pilates 2-3 times a week. I am a mat Pilates enthusiast. I have put more people through the Pilates paces, and it changed my life. It was an amazing experience, and I wished it could have turned out better, but timing is everything. And we were just
ahead of your time.
Yeah, we were ahead of our time.
Did you stay in touch with Naja?
I did, of course, through that whole process. And when it just wasn't working out, I went back into New York, saw Naja again, talked to Joan, and just felt at that point the manager of the beauty salon, really, this
Didn't
was outside
understand
his wheelhouse. I don't think anybody quite understood what to do with it. And so it just unfortunately didn't happen, and I moved on. But I moved on and took that whole process with me, and then I ended up calling it body awareness. And I had at the YWCA, where I was the fitness director, and I had a dance exercise studio I called the Dance Spa, which we were all doing ballroom dancing, and a lot of the dancers would end up taking the class. Oh, and then in the summer of 1977, I was hired by the Hartford Ballet to go in and teach their premier ballerinas and dancers body economics while I was still under the
still with Naja.
Yeah, still with Naja. And that was, my goodness, here I was, this 21 or 22-year-old instructor teaching these professional dancers Pilates, and it was amazing how transformational it was for them. And that was on my resume for decades. I just couldn't take that off because I thought, wow, I taught at the Hartford Ballet. How impressive was that? Thank you, Naja, Cori.
Yes. Did the dancers give you any kind of feedback in terms of their performance level and their technique level?
They loved it. Enid Lynn, who was the head of the Hartford Ballet, I knew her for decades, and we ran into each other just before COVID hit. There was a party in Bushnell Park, which is downtown Hartford, and who's there but Enid? And I walked up to her and I said, Enid, Judy Letts, because that was my name back then, you hired me. She said, oh, yes. Right away, she remembered me, the summer program, and we reminisced, and how that was just an amazing opportunity for her dancers to really go through routines that they had previously not been exposed to. So yeah, it was quite impactful.
I'm sure that studio probably has a whole Pilates system inside their training center. I'm sure most ballet companies do now.
Well, the Hartford Ballet Company no longer exists either. Yeah.
What happened?
Just couldn't keep it going, so it morphed into 2 or 3 dance companies coming together, and now they're called Nutmeg Dance or something. I may be wrong about that. And I think it might be a smaller group that still calls itself the Hartford Ballet, but it's nothing like it used to be. I mean, we used to go to the Bushnell, and they would fill that place up. And it was absolutely fascinating, and those days are gone.
Sadly.
Sadly.
Then recently, taking you all these decades forward, you had something happen to you pretty scary, and I'd like you to tell our listeners about it and how Pilates played a role in it, and then how it continues to play a role in your healing.
We chatted a little bit about the breathing. I didn't understand how the diaphragm, the rib cage, and filling up your lungs, breathing out through the mouth, breathing in through the nose, and how to really position myself for that return on oxygenation from my lungs. And so because of that experience with Naja and all the years that I've practiced Pilates and the proper breathing methods that I learned, I had some health concerns. And I know when your podcast comes out, Deanna.
Darian.
Can you cut that out?
I've been called many names. It's okay.
When the podcast comes out, Darian.
Thank you.
It's going to be, I'll probably share it with some friends, and a lot of people don't know that I was very ill through COVID. was misdiagnosed numerous times by many doctors. I continued to say there was something wrong. I knew that every diagnosis I got wasn't right. And then in March of this year, 2021, it turned out I had lung cancer. Now, this lung cancer I had was a carcinoid, which is a very rare form of lung cancer, not caused by smoking or anything like that. And I was stunned because here I am, the athlete, the Pilates student for all these decades. How could I possibly have lung cancer? And when I went in to get the breathing test, they put you into this capsule. And the doctor that gave that test, the 3 times that he measured my oxygenation, it came back at 98% all 3 times. And he said he's never had that result before. Oxygenation always drops. And he said, what do you attribute your lung capacity to? And the one word that came out of my mouth was, guess what?
Say it.
Pilates.
Yes. Yes.
And
did he even know what you were talking about?
He did. And he said, whatever happens to you, you are going to make a recovery. Whatever happens, you'll be okay. And so fast forward, I ended up getting a lobectomy. Part of my lobe was removed of my right lung, all my lymph nodes in the right lung. It was quite an extensive surgery and came out, and there was some complications. And I think the month of April, I spent more time in the hospital than I did anywhere else, which was also frightening during COVID. It was quite an experience. Yeah. But my recovery from that, going through chemotherapy and having my oxygenation level back up to at one point 100%, I attribute directly back to Pilates. That, thank goodness for me, how fortunate I was to have Naja in my life back in 1977. All these decades later, regardless of the ill health that I was in, I'm now biking, hiking, playing tennis. I'm only 4 months out from my major surgery and 6 weeks from chemotherapy. And my doctor says it's a remarkable recovery, that my lungs have just done so well during this. And that breathing that I learned back then and through my meditation has served me so well at this point in my life. And I know Naja passed, I think, back in 2006. I'm sending this out to the universe. Naja, Cori, I love you. Thank you for being in my life.
I love it. Beautiful. There are others out there who are definitely struggling with different conditions and maladies, who may not even have had someone like Naja in their life, right? Do you have any advice or suggestions for these people who are still in ill health and they need a boost mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and for sure physically?
Well, it's a cliche, but it's never too late. That there's all types of Pilates programs out there. There's meditation, focusing in on your breathing. I mean, it's such a easy thing to do. Put your hands, and this is where Naja did hands-on, putting your hands on your rib cage and expanding the rib cage to the side and filling your lungs up completely to a count of 4, then holding for 4, and then expelling all the air out through your mouth to the count of 8. And then doing it again, count of 4, all the breath in, and feeling that rib cage expand, and then holding for 4, and then breathing all that air out on the count of 8. And if you can do that and work your way up to 10 minutes in kind of a meditative state, that will help not only your physical well-being, but your mental well-being. So that's a really simple exercise that anybody can do.
Did you learn that from Naja?
Yeah, absolutely.
So way back when, she was just like Joe, really talking and emphasizing the role of the breath in our overall health.
Yeah. And, we take breathing for granted because it's so automatic. And a lot of people breathe into their abdomen and don't understand the whole way the diaphragm works. If you can get into a meditation type of calm app, that's a great way to do the breathing. Again, a Pilates class, just a mat class, real simple, real easy. I mean, they'll go at your pace, which is what Naja used to do, that it's not a one size fits all. It's really tailored for each individual person.
And what are you doing now? You're 4 months out. You're continuing with your hiking and swimming?
Oh, yeah, swimming at the ocean. I swam out at a camp that I'm working with in the Berkshires last Tuesday, was it? And, it's a real challenge with my lung capacity as well as it is. I still have some other issues going on, pulmonary hypertension and some swelling of my diaphragm. And so I'm going through some more testing. But I continue to push myself, and my doctors have said, go ahead and exert yourself, which I don't think they realize who they're saying that to, because my exertion, today I took a hike and I had to sit down so many times and it was very elevated. And I realized about 3/4 of the way through, as I was sitting on a rock, starting to get eaten up by the mosquitoes, I said, uh-oh, did I just bite off more than I can chew? Am I calling 911? Which I did a whole lot of times while I was ill before they figured out what was wrong with me. I was taken away in an ambulance and I said, oh no, I can't go back to that.
No.
So I have to be mindful and listen to my body.
Yes.
Which is really important as well.
And pace. That's what I've learned through my own COVID experience and coming out of it, is that pacing is everything, because those of us who are athletic are so used to pushing, we don't even think about it. We just push in every direction and our body can take it, but not when your body needs to heal and restore and recover. You can't be exercising in the same fashion. So it's a lesson for all of us type A and type AA people, right?
It certainly is.
Do you see yourself teaching Pilates in the future, guest teaching, bringing Naja with you?
Oh, I still have the notebook from Naja where I kept all my notes in, and I still teach to this day. I mean, every friend of mine has gone through Pilates multiple times. When I go on vacation, I'm going to a North Shore of Boston to Marblehead, and there's a gazebo up in the park, and I do my Pilates up there, and friends are invited, and I've had people stop by saying, what are you doing? And join in. So to this day, I've been a teacher, a motivator, I'm a coach. I help people to achieve their best self, whether that's through their career or networking or physical fitness, teaching them tennis. I mean, I've been a coach and a teacher all my life. So if there's an opportunity to help people, that's what I love to do.
I can see that. I can hear that in your personality. I can hear that.
Yeah.
You're probably a little bit of a taskmaster, but lovingly so.
Lovingly so, but yes, I've been told that, absolutely, especially by my daughter.
Thank you so much for your time today, Judith. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and getting to know Naja through you. And I wish I would have spent a little time with her. As many,
I think
sure.
You just did.
Yes.
I think through osmosis, or however that works, and through the universe, that spending this time with you, Darian, and sharing more about Naja and going back through my memories of just how important she is to me, and just how ironic that Jonathan found me all these decades later while I was in the hospital recovering from my surgery, and I get an email from him saying, are you Judy Letts? And I said, yes. And did you train with Naja, Cori? Yes. And then fast forward, not only am I on his blog, but now here I am in your podcast. And
Yes.
There's a friend of mine who also is writing a book, and I'm a chapter in her book about women who are fearless in the face of challenge. And
Fabulous.
It's all meant to be. And when we talked about timing is everything, I guess that's more true than ever.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Naja. And thank you, Naja's disciple, Judith Green. Thank you.
Thank you, Darian.
At the end of each episode, you've been introduced to Pilates students and or instructors who share how Pilates has impacted their lives. Today's featured student is Kate Brady. As one of my most dedicated students, Kate says, "Every day, I feel strong and balanced because of the fundamental strength gained from my Pilates practice. Even as my body ages, I maintain balance and strength and confidence." All Things Pilates is created, edited, produced, and hosted by me, Darian Gold. Mastered audio mix by Fabian Romero. I really appreciate your support, and I love the comments that you send to me. Thank you. Those of you looking to take your practice to the next level, or you are a complete beginner, I offer both types of classes. For more information, please visit dariangold.com. And remember, it takes courage to live life fully and unapologetically. So dig your heels in and try something new or scary or, well, out of your comfort zone. See what happens. Until then, please be good to yourself and see you in a couple of weeks with another episode of All Things Pilates.